Would you like to know what's spicing the manufacturing environment in Latin America and specifically in Mexico? Watch the video and you will find out.
Welcome to the MFG Advocate on IMTS TV. When it comes to manufacturing in the United States, Mexico is one of our biggest trading partners. Today, Carlos Mortera, the International Director for Latin America for AMT, will give us an overview of what's happening to our neighbor to our south. So, a lot of our economists here in Cleveland have said that Mexico is a strong market for manufacturing. What's happening there?
Well, I'm very pleased to say that some of the fiscal discipline, and the growth of the domestic market in Mexico is starting to pay off. Some of the things that we see in the domestic market, and also the opening and trade agreements that Mexico has signed, over the last 15 to 20 years, are starting to capitalize and create a lot of benefits and opportunities for international global companies that want to do business in Mexico and expand their presence. So over the last 5 to 6 years, right after the big financial meltdown that really troubled everyone around the globe, Mexico has been very steadily and continuously growing and expanding into the manufacturing capacity and the manufacturing output. So capitalizing and trying to strengthen the position of the North American manufacturing bloc, if I may call it that way.
So what's being made in Mexico and where?
That's a very good question. There are three major manufacturing poles in Mexico, or clusters as we call them. One of them is the northwestern region of Mexico, where you find a lot of the LCD plasma screens, electronics, advanced medical equipment. You find heavy-duty Class 8 type of transportation and medical and aerospace devices. Then you go into the northwestern portion of Mexico, the northeastern portion of Mexico, where Monterrey is located, and AMT has a strong presence with our office and to support the national deployment of industry. And there, it's mostly into the heavy-duty type of production. For many, many years, Monterrey was considered the industrial capital of Mexico. So all those big manufacturers, from Caterpillar to John Deere to local domestic manufacturers like Nemak and Alpha, which are headquartered in Monterrey, all invested a lot of money and effort into creating a manufacturing environment which is really fostering the growth and development of the industry. And then you get into central Mexico. Central Mexico, where Mexico City is located, for many, many years was really prompting into services, and now it's a very strong dynamo for light automotive, for example. Some of the big OEMs, from Volkswagen to Nissan to Toyota to Mazda to BMW and Audi, all of them are located in central Mexico, as well as what we call the domestic OEMs from North America, the GMs, the Ford, the Fiat, the Chryslers, and all those.
Do you think out of those markets there are any of them that maybe U.S. manufacturers haven't paid as much attention to as they should?
That's a very good question. Once again, yes, there are several markets. Our industry, the manufacturing technology industry, it's quite strong in Mexico, because of the long-standing relationship that exists between both economies. Back in the 50s and the 60s, when Mexico started developing into a manufacturing power, the preferred country for us to procure manufacturing technology was the United States. As you can imagine, when NAFTA got signed, there was a big push to continue expanding and growing, and the demand of products and services as related to manufacturing technology continues expanding. So yes, some of the areas which are traditional to our membership are very well managed, meaning automotive, meaning auto parts, meaning appliance. But there are some other industries which are I call them the best kept secret, that are really booming in Mexico, like the aerospace or aircraft manufacturing components, or the medical industry, which is also very, very strong. The electric and electronics industry just continues to expand. I was just reading on one of the Mexican newspapers this morning that Schneider Electric, for example, is just announcing a very large expansion in the Monterrey area, as well as some of the big transplants from Asia, like Kia, and then Lego, which is not creating Legoland, but it's creating a very large plant expansion in Monterrey, where they produce all those little Legos that go into Legoland.
Now, you mentioned trade agreements, specifically NAFTA, but there's big news right now about the Trans Pacific Partnership. What is that going to mean for the relationship between U.S. and Mexico?
Well, those are exciting news because it's a tremendous opportunity for U.S. manufacturers that want to expand and continue growing the business case in the selling manufacturing technology products into Mexico. As I was pointing out, the single country where the U.S. manufacturing base has the strongest market share is Mexico, with 25 to 30%, depending on a year. But basically, today, the manufacturing output coming out of Mexico, it's about $380 billion every year. The projections that are published by the finance secretary in Mexico talk about once the TPP is fully implemented, in 5 years, there's going to be about $160 billion additional manufacturing, which is going to go to places like Indonesia, Malaysia, Japan, and Peru, and Chile, and even Colombia. So we're very excited. Mexico has always been a very strong advocate about free trade. Mexico as a country has more than 13 trade agreements signed with about 42 countries around the world. Now with the TPP, once it's fully implemented, there's going to be more than 50 countries that will have free trade with Mexico.
So some of the big challenges right now for manufacturers in U.S. include things like lower oil prices and higher, a stronger dollar. Are there any similar challenges in Mexico economically for businesses there?
That's a good question. Once again, as the Mexican economy is so intertwined to the U.S. economy, yes, some of the challenges which are being faced by the small and medium enterprises in the United States are also being faced in Mexico. The oil and gas industry, it's so strong in Mexico. The energy sector in Mexico was also, hard hit over the last 6 to 9 months, and it's expecting to bounce back, by end of next year. But it was a great opportunity for all those job shops that were focused on supporting, the Pemex or the Halliburtons or the Schlumbergers, because it's allowing them to replan the whole manufacturing strategy and try to open up the business portfolio and find new customers and new opportunities.
We've heard a lot of economic forecasts over the last couple of days. What are you predicting for Mexico over the next few years?
Well, the projections for Mexico are quite favorable. In regards to the strengthening of the domestic market, that is one of the key drivers of the future demand, as well as the free trade and some of the initiatives that the federal government implemented over the last 24 to 36 months. When the new president took office in 2012, the first thing he did is he passed a number of reforms or bills to some of the old legislation that really jump-started, a lot of the wealth and the development of the industry, and not only the industry, but the service industry. For example, there was a telecommunication reform that was just passed, the energy reform, the banking reform, the financial system, and even the labor reform, which is adding flexibility to all those manufacturers, which are seeing Mexico as a very attractive, destination for opening up large manufacturing sites and operations.
So if there's a company that's looking to expand into Mexico right now, what's the biggest piece of advice that you would give to them?
Well, if for all our members which are planning on expanding into Latin America and specifically into Mexico, what we tell them is that they should take advantage and capitalize on the in-country resources that AMT has already established in Mexico. We have a wealth of information and a wealth of market intelligence that we can share with them. We can help them in pointing them in the right direction, helping them to find non-traditional customers, if you will, by getting access to people from Europe, getting access to people from Asia, and companies which are really demanding and expecting to get the same level of support as if they were in their corporate countries, in their home-based countries, if you will.
But I think a big message probably overall to U.S. manufacturers is think outside the borders.
Absolutely. One of the things that we challenge and we invite our members is to think outside the box and come to us, and some of the products and services that we offer in Mexico, even when it's fully standardized to the catalog that AMT offers through the Global Services Department internationally, it's also built to suit. Because, as I pointed out, the dynamics of the market in Mexico, since the relationship with the U.S. manufacturers has been so long and withstanding, some of the products have to be retweaked a little bit to try to accommodate to the reality of the Mexican market. And also, some of the deployment intentions and the manufacturing strategy or the entry strategy that our members have in regards to Mexico.
Lots of great insight today, Carlos. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
This has been Penny Brown for the MFG Advocate on IMTS TV.